to feel
the power. I thought you forgot that.
Nope, I remembered it. Yeah, it's a kind of crazy day here in studio. We're rendering out a video for the Anderson Silva interview that we had. It's pre-recorded, luckily, so we do have it. So you guys can count on us to have that out next week for sure. But I do apologize for everybody that was tuning in for him. You can still tune in this next week to catch it. And, things do happen. Unfortunately, it was crashing my computer every time I'd go to render this. So I've got to clean some stuff up on my computer. But you guys are awesome. We've got another awesome episode coming here. And Colin, these two guests that we are going to have are by no means lacking anything that would make any of you want to hop off.
Without a doubt, they're amazing, Gordon Ryan and Arjan Bhullar. But I will tell you guys this: those of you that really wanted to see my interview with Anderson Silva, even though it wasn't long, we're looking in the area of about 10 minutes. It was really interesting. I asked him some really good questions about his life and his past and some people, and he made some interesting statements on several different things that I think he hasn't really put out there before. So you'll want to see that next week on the MMA Power.
Yeah, you definitely will want to catch that. And everybody that is tuning in, make sure to go on over and check out Nessa's Hemp. Go to mmaph.nessashemp.com to get yourself a nice discount on their full spectrum hemp oil. It is the best on the market for all CBDA cold pressed CBD oil. And
I think hemp oil. Hemp oil.
It is a hemp oil.
CBDA, right? The
yes.
fully optimized CBDA. And so that's important. That this is what happens then when you're taking a little bit too much of the fully optimized CBDA, doctor. But
well, I am getting into that business. You know that.
That is. That's true. You're making it's going to be fully optimized Dr. Lionfist Roorda CBDA. But like I would say,
I'm not going to compete with this CBDA oil. It is the best in the market. Like I said, mmaph.nessashemp.com.
That's it. Get your discount, right? And when you deal with Nessas, you don't have to worry about your provider having a manic episode and not being able to ship your stuff like some other sources. So
it sounds like you're speaking from experience, Colin.
I keep telling him, where's the stuff? And he's like, no, I'm kidding. But anyway, so don't worry. They will actually ship your stuff. There will be no manic episodes from anybody on staff at Nessa's Hemp. There we go. It took a second here. I got here like 2 minutes before we're on camera. It was crazy. Believe me, the traffic in Los Angeles. Anyway, Doc, man, oh man, as Elvis would say, can Hawaii get sticky? We had some great fights, but they are past. I'll tell you what though, Carla Esparza, our guest from last year, just killing it. And you know what's really interesting? I think most of you guys know, Carla Esparza was the first UFC strawweight champion, and her first I think the vacant title was fought for by Carla and Rose Namajunas, and Carla won. And since then, Carla kind of had a down streak, a skid over the last few years, because I think that was like 4 or 5 years ago, and Rose is kind of really going in the upward position. Now it turns out Rose has Carla's title. She actually had it once before, so Rose is now a 2-time strawweight champ. But Carla, it looks like, in many people's opinion, is the rightful #1 contender, and they should replay it. This is, and it's really a different fight, because then you had, I think, like a 30 or 29-year-old Carla Esparza, or 28, against a 22, 23-year-old Rose Namajunas, and neither of them were that seasoned, because I think Carla only started in MMA like 3 or 4 years earlier, as did Rose, and now you have a much more experienced Rose. I think she's coming up in her late 20s, and Carla, I think, is 32 or 3, give or take, and has just been killing it, has just found her stride. Her wrestling is just dominating with Tatiana Suarez out and going up into flyweight. Carla is the dominant wrestler in the strawweight division, and she is just, she's ready. So a lot of people feel they should run that back, including Carla, including me. I think Dr. Adam Roorda agrees. Other people
100.
Right, 100% right. Other people feel that they should give Weili Zhang an immediate rematch, although you get smoked in 1 minute. Not really automatic rematches in MMA is not what you get. And then people feel Joanna, but then Rose beat Joanna 2 out of 2. I mean, Carla Carla actually did lose once to Joanna. I don't know. It's kind of muddled. A lot of people are thinking Wei Li. People are thinking, Carla.
Just the women's division is
it's exciting,
getting more and more muddled, and then we'll see how everything ends up over the next while. With Nunes is really throwing it out there as well, and
defending both titles.
In different weight classes, but the women's division, and it's just.
Looking good. Looking like it's getting deeper and deeper. Do
you feel it's getting deeper? Yeah. I feel all of them are getting slimmer and slimmer and muddled in a different way.
Well, I don't really think that. Well, I mean, let's break it down since we have a little bit of time here. Strawweight division is competitive. I know Tatiana Suarez left, but they still have Nina Ansaroff Nunes. You still have Carla Esparza. You still have Joanna Jędrzejczyk. You still have Zhang Weili, or Weili Zhang, if you will. You still have Rose Namajunas. You still have some other very tough 115-pound women, and maybe not a lot more than that, people heard of, but there's some tough ones. Let's go up to the flyweight division. You have the champ Valentina Shevchenko. You have Lauren Murphy and Joanna Calderwood fighting possibly to see who gets the next shot. You have Caitlin Chikagian in there. You have Tatiana Suarez jumping up in that division. You have Miranda Maverick, a guest on our show many times, going up against Macy Barber.
Okay, now that division I think is getting exciting. Okay, now outside of that
35 is slim. You're right. 35 and 45, the division where the GOAT Amanda Nunes has her titles, are slim. 45 has always been slim. We know that. Felicia Spencer lost a close decision against Norman Dumont. I thought Felicia won. It was really close, but other than Megan Anderson and those two ladies, there isn't anyone else in the division, literally, other than Amanda Nunes. In 35, we have the return of Miesha Tate, which is going to be exciting.
That's opening it back up.
Yeah, we had her on the show.
I forgot about that.
But in all honesty, other than Amanda Nunes, Miesha Tate, and who's down there also at 35, Macy Chesson,
which is exciting.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just thinking in my head more star power.
And there's not a lot of depth. The most depth is at 25, 15, and 25. 45 is the least, and I think 35 is the second least, although Miesha coming back. And Holly Holm. Holly's still there with Miesha. So, there's some recognizable faces.
Yeah, but I'm thinking 25 getting so muddled now all of a sudden. It's just kind of that mystique behind Wei Li is...
No, the 15. Wei Li is
15, sorry. Is just like, what? Yeah. But now we have Tatiana coming in here.
Yeah, 25 I think is the most exciting, like you were
exactly.
Yeah, because I'll tell you what, if Tatiana comes back and beats a couple of women at 25, I say they give her the shot against Valentina if Valentina hasn't lost to Lauren Murphy or Joanne Calderwood, and those are very tough women, but you never know. But I'll tell you what, Tatiana, with her just dominant wrestling, would be a really interesting challenge for Valentina, because you saw Valentina use her grappling against Jessica Andrade and totally surprise her and dominate her. She's not going to do that to Tatiana Suarez. She's going to want to stay as far away from her and pick her apart, and if they get close, Tatiana Suarez could ragdoll Valentina just like she ragdolls everyone else. And that would be really interesting to see. But Tatiana has something to prove, a lot to prove at 25, because her record is 0-0, I think, at 125.
I was going to say, do you think she's going to show up and be the same Tatiana Suarez after coming off an injury and, just changing weights?
I think so. And I think she's changing weights for a couple of reasons. She was a big 25er. I think that's part of the reason why she was able to ragdoll Carla Esparza and really pretty much beat on everyone else, is she was a kind of a taller and larger framed strawweight. I think she's around 26 or 27 years old, so it's very likely that she's had that little bit of extra thickness and that most of us get when you get to your late 20s, and it only makes sense. I mean, probably she was so big and strong, had she been able to stay at 15, I feel like no doubt she would have been the champion, because she's just too big and too strong for those ladies. But I think this is a natural progression. I think it's going to be a good fit for her, but she is going against bigger girls. And so will she dominate them as well? It's possible. Will she struggle a little bit against them? It's possible. We're gonna see, but I'd be curious to see what the odds are in her first matchup. But I have a feeling the odds makers are gonna assume, like most of us, that this is gonna be her fighting at more of full capacity, and,
Right.
and not dehydrated, and may she be slightly undersized to start compared to some of the bigger girls at 25, maybe, but I don't think that much. Not only that, but as a far superior wrestler, I think that factor adds up to something that can overcome slight size advantage when you're a far better wrestler. Don't you agree?
Yeah.
So I think she'll be fine. I can't wait to see her. But yeah, there are some exciting matches there up at that division with her, with Lauren Murphy versus Joanne Calderwood coming up, with our friend Miranda Maverick against Macy Barber, Caitlin Chikagian still looking
Now,
good.
Miranda is definitely one to keep an eye on, everybody.
Yeah.
I think that one, it's kind of making me eat my own words from earlier. She's definitely one to keep an eye on. I think she's going to have a lot of star power behind her in the near future.
Yes.
Right off the bat, no. But
only 23 years old.
She's only 23 years old, and she's been killing it. So I just keep watching her and keep your eyes on her.
Without a doubt, fear the Maverick, as they say. And I think she's going to put it on Macy Barber. That's going to be an interesting matchup. Two 23-year-olds that are very physically strong. One that's been a big talker and has been on a slight bit of a skid, which is Macy. And the other talks with her fists and her grappling. Not a big talker, really humble, cool Missouri farm girl in Miranda Maverick. And I think it's going to be an interesting matchup because they're both really strong. I think Miranda's just going to be too strong for Macy. But Macy's got those hands and she's going to let him fly. It's going to be really interesting. That's going to be a dynamic matchup. That is one of those matchups that, even though there are better women out there as far as skill, I think, than Macy Barber, I think she's so determined. She's so young. She wants to get back in the win column. I think when she and Miranda go at it, it's going to be one of those exciting matchups of like the immovable object facing the irresistible force, as they used to say. So that's going to be exciting. Right. And we're only about 2 months away from that. We're about 7-8 weeks away from that. So that will be exciting. And a lot of great fights coming up. And until then, and prior to that, why don't we take a look?
There's not really anything scheduled right now until June 5th. So
there's nothing this Saturday?
No.
You're right. You're right about that.
Which is kind of interesting because in June it's just jam-packed with boxing and triple, quadruple cards for boxing, and then MMA world is it's going to end up being a lot of the same thing.
Yeah.
And man, it's going to be fun, but a lot of people are going to go broke.
Yeah, by pay-per-view charges. Very, very true. Or going to the events if you can. You want to start? Let's see. Let me see that whole.
Well, no. Let's go back to that in a moment.
Oh,
I have a couple questions for you. First off,
absolutely, fire away.
What are your thoughts with this? Supposedly, GSP was shut down with a fight or a boxing match against Oscar De La Hoya by Dana. It was shut down.
Right.
And Triller's been trying to reach out and get GSP to come on over. Dana was just like, I don't even want to talk to them. I don't know why they keep it. I don't want to do it. Yeah. Well, anyways, with this whole potential GSP versus Oscar De La Hoya boxing match, I mean, do you think that is even really all that big of a deal? I mean, DC just came out and was just talking about how he thinks it's too risky for MMA to have GSP box Oscar De La Hoya.
Yeah, I have some pretty strong thoughts on that, although I could very well be wrong if they thought about the outcome, but I doubt it. So you have GSP, who's I think about 40 years old now, 41, 40 I think, and he's been minimally active for the last 5 years, but looked very good coming up at 185 against Michael Bisping. And you have Oscar De La Hoya, who's been retired, I think, for 10 years and has got to be close to 50. I think Oscar's maybe 48 or 49 something. And Oscar fought as high as 168, I believe. His heaviest, I think, was super middleweight. So the weight class would be an interesting thing to think of. I think that both of them could agree to 175. And I think that but 175 is, in boxing is light heavyweight. but I think that probably more of a catch weight might be better. It's interesting to see Oscar's been walking around heavier since he wasn't fighting, since he was a promoter and making tons of money and getting older. But I know he can cut back down. It's interesting. They're about the same height at about 5'10" even. And I think GSP is definitely a little bit of a bigger man, more muscular, but not that big difference. Okay, let's get on to the skills. In a pure boxing match, if we went back 10 years to where Oscar was in his late 30s and GSP was in his early 30s or 30 years old, in a boxing match, Oscar boxes GSP's ears off 10 times out of 10. However, this isn't 10 years ago. You have about an 8 or 9 year age advantage for George St. Pierre, who's a phenomenal athlete. His striking was already decent, but a lot of it kind of was not surrounded, but a lot of it was provided by his kicks. And this is not kickboxing, so I think DC makes a good point.
I
more than likely
agree with this, but
Oscar boxes his ears off.
I don't think he's the only one to be concerned about. First off, you have Vitor Belfort talking about how he wants to box Silva and
right.
Oscar. He's got that huge background, of course.
He's a bigger man than these guys that we're just talking about, too.
Yeah, so, he is a bigger man, but he's also probably more dangerous, I would say, from the striking side of things. And you got Anderson Silva that's boxing coming up here in June, and that's a big bout. You know, either guy that comes out of the Chavez Jr. Matchup with him, either one of those guys that comes out with a win, they're going to be in serious talks right off the bat.
They will. But I mean, you understand Dana's thoughts. If GSP loses to a guy 8 or 9 years his senior, who's been sitting on his butt walking around at 210 pounds for the last 10 years, it's going to be a bad look for the UFC.
I mean, bad look for sure, but I think there's a lot more to it than just somebody winning or losing. With everything that's going on in the landscape right now, I just see everybody kind of going back to boxing, and I have to give the credit there to the Paul brothers for really just making it popular with the youngsters.
Yeah, bring some excitement in boxing to the millennials, because boxing had been dead almost for like 15 years, and this generation of people under 30 really looked at boxing as like their dad's sport or their grandfather's sport. And I think you're right. The Paul brothers have brought back excitement because it's easier for people to understand. MMA can confuse some people. Boxing people get it, even if they haven't watched it before. So,
right, us MMA people, we all know well enough. Hey, if it's going to go to the ground, that can be exciting when you really know what is actually going on.
Right, and it's real fighting. And it makes it real fighting in the streets.
Not to say boxing isn't real fighting either. It's just got a lot more rules and guidelines that you have to follow.
Yeah, and you have the elements in MMA that make it more real than a lot of fights you see that last a minute or less and they end up on the ground. Not all, but But no, I'm not diminishing boxing. Boxing is a great sport. I've been a fan for years. So I don't know, Adam. I mean, if you look at Dana's perspective, it's clear why he's not interested unless he were to be given like 90% of the money, and they're not going to do that. So for like a 50-50 split, to have a guy who's still under contract to the UFC, and then have him lose to essentially a 50-year-old guy, they just don't want that. And I know it's more than wins and losses, but to them it isn't probably. But if we look at it as an interesting matchup, yeah, it would be. I mean, GSP, it's interesting because he's a guy that's super confident. He's a guy that came from Canada, not in the American wrestling curriculum, not in the American wrestling structure. And he went on from studying wrestling. I think he didn't start learning wrestling literally until he was like 20 or 21. And by the time he was like 23 in MMA matches, he was beating like high-level wrestlers. I know that's in MMA, but apparently he was training with like the Canadian, freestyle wrestling team. He was training with some Americans that were really, really high-level D1 guys. And basically GSP from Canada in like 2 years of learning kind of transformed himself into looking like a D1 wrestler. Now, that was when he was in his early 20s. You ask him at 40 to transform himself into an elite level boxer, not going to happen. You ask him here at 40 to transform himself into a high level, talented, competitive pro boxer, that probably ain't going to happen. And so what is going to happen? Is he going to come in there and possibly have some sort of weird combination set up where he throws some crazy uppercuts and looks erratic, and then comes in and throws a big overhand right and knocks Oscar De La Hoya out. Anything is possible, but GSP would definitely be up against it. However, that's assuming that Oscar, at nearly 50 years old and having sat on his butt for 10 years, can come back and do what Mike Tyson did, which was to look way better than someone in their 50s probably should look, who's been retired for years. But I think the line of thinking now is that Mike did it. Roy Jones was in his 50s, although he had only been retired for 3 years. But both Roy and Mike went out there and looked pretty damn good for guys in their 50s. And so I think the line of thinking is that if they could do it, a former world champion many times over, an elite athlete, Olympic gold medalist, Oscar De La Hoya, could probably do it. But what if he can't? What if he has some weird nagging injuries that Mike and Roy Jones didn't have, and he starts throwing shit, and all of a sudden throws his shoulder out, and then all of a sudden his lower back is in agony, and I mean, you never know. I'm not saying someone has to be decrepit at 49 or 50 years old, because you certainly don't. But we don't know.
I mean, some of these guys are in extremely great shape.
It's really true.
Look at Chavez Sr. I mean, he's actually in great shape too. I'm surprised how few people are actually talking about how great shape he's still in.
Yeah. I mean, so but would it be interesting to see? It would be. I mean, I'd be curious about GSP's strategy. But it would be interesting. I mean, GSP is such a confident guy, such a smart guy, and there definitely is a difference between 40 years old and 50 years old. And essentially, I think Oscar, if not 50, is 49. And so GSP really might be able to move quick enough that Oscar might not really be able to hit him hard, but Oscar's skills are so much better in boxing. Hard to say. If Oscar could come back as well as Mike Tyson did and look as good as Mike did, then Oscar beats GSP 10 times out of 10 and probably knocks him out. If he doesn't, and if GSP again,
I mean, the last few years, his status with with Oscar, he's kind of an X factor. He really is. Yeah. So I don't know that that's so dangerous, but I am seeing so many of these MMA fighters that are just starting to say no. They're either going over to bare knuckle boxing or they're going over to boxing.
Yes.
And
want to make some money. They're tired of being broke.
Well, it's not just about the money, though. A lot of these guys just really have so much passion for continuing the sport, and then when you get pushed out because of your age, and these guys feel like they're still viable and still have potential. I'm just seeing that there's so much of a transition that it's putting the sport of MMA kind of on a second tier, and I guess some people will see it as, okay, we're going over here because we can't do MMA anymore. I don't see it that way. I think these guys are fully capable to fight still and really put on a show. And you've got these amazing strikers like Vitor Belfort and Anderson Silva just going full force into the boxing world.
Yeah.
So I see a lot of danger for the sport of MMA as far as viewership goes coming up over the next couple of years. I just think it's going to keep going that way. I think Dana's more in his right mind, just thinking in general that way. But I'm surprised he hasn't pulled some strings to see Silva not be able to make something happen.
Well, I think the difference is that Silva is no longer, well, like they say, why did
I know, but he can pull strings. That's my point.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I know that that Silva that did feel like you should have the freedom to do what you want. Now, when Silva was released, he had lost like 4 out of 5 fights.
Right.
And he was 44 years old instead of GSP, who's just 40. And GSP
he actually lost 8 of his last 9.
Right, and GSP has been doing nothing but winning. So I think that's kind of one of the differences, not to diminish Silva at all, but I think that as long as you win, your contact keeps on being renewed with the UFC, I believe, at least, And so I think they still have George obligated to them, and at 40, they still know he could beat a shit ton of people. at welterweight, and so they just don't want to relinquish that. Maybe if it's 2 or 3 years down the line, he's 42 or 44 and hasn't fought for 7 or 8 years, they'll probably say, all right, get the hell out of here, do what you want. But at this point, no. Whereas with Anderson, not only did they feel from the losing streak, I think with all the respect Dana I think did have for Anderson, I think he didn't want to see him get knocked out anymore in the UFC. But the bottom line is, Anderson made a good point in that it would be really good if fighters did have a choice to fight in this or that organization.
Oh, but, 100%.
Yeah, I know you believe in that.
Well, hey, Colin, I want to go ahead and take a moment here and say thank you to everybody that is tuning in here. You guys are all amazing and awesome. Make sure to go on over to our social media. It's just at MMA Power Hour. Give us a look on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Likes, comments, and shares, retweets, those are always appreciated. Mentions, if you want to go ahead and start using the Feel the Power hashtag as well, mentioning us, that would be amazing. You guys are the best for helping us out, get the word out about the show, and we will never ever forget that you did that. Nope. Really, Colin and I look back and we're like, ooh, who shared these things? We make sure to pay attention. You guys are amazing. I guess somebody hopping in here on YouTube channel here. It's actually on my own personal one. I just wanted to have it up. We'll be putting it over on Hannibal TV YouTube here shortly. We're getting some technical stuff figured out, guys. You guys are all absolutely amazing. If you're watching us on Fight TV, you can catch us over on the Hannibal TV as well and interact. We interact on both locations. Make sure to subscribe to our either the Hannibal TV YouTube channel and or the Fight TV MMA Power Hour channel. Colin, there's so many things going on in the world of MMA today and yesterday. One of the things that I'm curious to get your thoughts on is the whole Diego Sanchez scenario that's kind of turned into a little bit of a back and forth with accusations coming from Fabia.
Yeah.
And I kind of felt they were wild. Did you pay attention to any of that stuff?
A little bit. I mean, that to me,
Bizarro World and Bizarro World.
Yeah, it's Bizarro World. It's Bizarro World. It's unfortunate because Diego Sanchez was a really, really great fighter. He never became champion, but he looked really good. There were so many fights that he was in, and he was so close. And he, I think, fought for a title once and looked pretty good against Diego. Not against Diego. He's Diego. Against BJ Penn. Tough guy, legend, warrior in his younger years. He was amazing. I think part of the problem was the skill set passed him by a little bit in the early part of the 2000s. Still having 2 of the 3 skill sets only. If you were really kind of good at both of them, kept you, in contention. But now everyone's got strikes. Everyone's got some jiu-jitsu. Everyone's got some wrestling to a degree. And I think that, he always had the jiu-jitsu. His wrestling was good, but it started to be exposed to not be as good as some of the better wrestlers. And then his striking was pretty good, but also started to be exposed as not being as polished as a lot of the newer breed. And so I think he just, was a little bit of a throwback and was great for a little while. But anyway, the bottom line is huge respect to him. A great guy, positive thinker, always a big Anthony Robbins guy with a positive thought and empowerment and visualizing and
but you can take that too far sometimes too, and I think that's kind of what was going on here with Fabio and Sanchez.
Yeah, I think
and Fabio was taking advantage of it, and Sanchez clearly has I would go as far as saying probably effects of CTE, and your people around you, when they start really pushing the limits of that positive mentality, you can really go down into a weird rabbit hole. And I think that's exactly what happened here. Now Fabia's saying, oh, well, dude, that's not my
fault. He attacked me. Yeah, it's unfortunate because it's possible this guy Fabio maybe convinced him that he would do some things to help Diego's mind, and that would return Diego to being a top 10 contender. And he didn't do it. He wasn't able to do it, and he probably knew he couldn't do it. And instead, now there's this bullshit. It's a shame. It's really a shame. John Jones was a longtime teammate Diego Sanchez over at Jackson Wink, and I know he mentioned he hates to see this. This is the last thing that Diego needs at this time of his career, when he's kind of in at the very end of it. It's a shame. He was set to have his last fight, and it was going to be against longtime teammate again, Cowboy Donald Cerrone, and that would have been great. They both could have gotten a pretty decent payday, and they're probably at each other's level and similar age, both crowding 40, and it should have gone that way. It just is a real shame, in my opinion, agreeing with John Jones, that instead of that, and it sounds like although stuff was kind of written that kind of made it somewhat clear what happened, it sounds like what happened was, when that was in the works, this guy Fabia then was given permission by Diego to represent him, and Fabia immediately went into the UFC demanding things, saying, listen, I want every record of every health test of Diego Sanchez and this and that, and it sounded like, it probably made the UFC feel like he was going to go in there and somehow try to then form some sort of a lawsuit against the UFC for letting Diego fight, probably pointing out maybe that he had early onset CTE or was on a losing streak. He shouldn't have been cleared. And so I think it kind of freaked the UFC out, and they just pretty much said, what the hell is this? You're trying to make demands with a guy who's lost 5 fights in a row, and that is just a shell of his former self. And they pretty much said, we're not playing that. We're not playing with you at all. The ball game's over. Diego's out of the organization. And so it seems like that's what this guy Fabia was able to accomplish, which was getting Diego fired from the UFC. And then Diego was literally afraid of some sort of physical retaliation, which is a shame, because I'm positive, I shouldn't say I'm positive, but I would highly doubt that Endeavor or Dana White is going to be so angry at someone who they cut from the organization that they're going to seek any physical revenge on them. I would highly doubt that, but it showed that Diego was so fearful of what was going on, and maybe that shows a little bit of CTE or just being in a bad state of mind. But just really unfortunate. It shouldn't have gone that way. It should have been that he got his last 75,000 or 40,000 or 100,000 paycheck, or whatever the most he could have gotten would have been amazing. I would have wished it was $1 million, and then he and Cowboy could have fought, and they both could have ridden off separate ways into the sunset, and it didn't happen. And it's effed up. But I don't want to see Diego Sanchez taking any more punishment physically, and I really don't want to see him taking any more punishment verbally.
This brings up another interesting topic, and that's the reality of some of these fighters sticking around, and some kind of getting pushed out and let go. And where is the actual science behind that right now? I don't see any real science. Cowboy's sticking around, right? Has basically said, "Oh, he's sticking around."
You meaning what? You're not seeing consistency, and
yeah.
Well, so that is an interesting point. People are talking about that. Is there maybe some favoritism? I mean, Cowboy constantly showed up whenever they wanted him to fight someone. Last second, he showed up. They didn't have to pay him a shit ton of money. And it's unfortunate, because I wish they would have, because then he'd be in a really good position. But then he got paid for Conor, for sure. But anyway, the bottom line is that I think they really appreciate Cowboy. I think maybe they got to be more personal friends with Cowboy. And I think maybe fighters like that they really had a good rapport with. I mean, the old saying, you want to have your friends around. There's a lot of nepotism in business now, even in the world of combat sports. You can have nepotism as far as getting opportunities, but then you've got to be a good enough skilled fighter to make it from there. But you can certainly get opportunities because people like having their friends work for them. People like to have people.
I get that. I get that, but there's also, it feels to me that it's not just a game of friendships either. I mean, politics maybe, and I guess it's kind of the same thing. But what are the actual politics behind it? I understand with Fabia, I can, and Diego. Now, what about this situation? Why wouldn't you hold on to somebody if they wanted to, like Jacare?
Yeah, well. So Jacare and Tyron Woodley, some people are pointing out both of them. Jacare is in his 40s. Tyron is almost 40. And Jacare Yeah, that's a hard one because he didn't get really like beaten down in that fight. He just got caught in the transition by a younger man who also was really good in jiu-jitsu, and most people in MMA have not wanted to connect physically close enough in a scramble with Jacare to start grabbing his arm. Because those of you guys who know jiu-jitsu, I'm not an expert, but I definitely know jiu-jitsu and have trained for several years. You know, the closer you get to get entangled with someone and start trying to grab something, the closer you are for them to grab something on you and submit you quicker. And so I just don't know that. I think Jacare just didn't expect that this guy, like anyone else, was going to try to go fish for an arm on him, a multiple-time world champion in jiu-jitsu. And so, yeah, it's a good point. But because I think that he didn't get smoked, he just got caught and his arm got broken. But
well, that's what I'm saying. He didn't get smoked, and we've watched Cowboy pretty much get smoked a few times.
Yeah. But then he doesn't have a losing record, but he's older than Cowboy. Cowboy is not 40. I mean, I hate to look at 40 as a death sentence because I'm definitely over 40 substantially. But that might be part of it. They might look at a guy that's 38 that they really like and kind of put him up here as far as the list of keeping him around, and look at a guy that's 41 or 42 that doesn't necessarily have a lot of star power, charisma, or personality, and then he's more down here.
Well, that's really interesting, that 40 over the hill threshold kind of getting in there, creeping in there is what you're saying, right? And I don't know that science is kind of telling us that our anatomy and our physiology can be kept up for quite a bit longer than it used to be able to. So I have troubles understanding that, but at the same time, I get what you're saying. I do. I really
it's
do.
not science based. I think it is looking at a fighter, seeing how much loyalty he's shown to the organization, how much money he's made by being a popular needle mover, if you will, and how much money he's brought to the organization, how many butts he's put in seats. I think those factors, and if the guy's under 40 or over 40, are determining how long they keep someone around, and it isn't fair. If they could use the exact same criteria, that might be fair, but it seems like that's never the case. No one's ever treating every employee or every neighbor or every girlfriend, every boyfriend, or every sibling that they have exactly the same. You look at people on an individual basis, and maybe that's not really fair. And I think a lot of people feel it isn't, and people are really trying to point out that it really isn't fair, and that's very likely true. But I think the UFC and Endeavor feels like that they will conduct their business the way they want to. And that's meaning them determining who they're going to cut loose and determining who they're not going to cut loose.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway,
we're a couple minutes away.
Yeah, we are still, and this next guest could be possibly a little bit late coming in, so we're going to keep on jamming here, talking. But we see our friend here, Notorious RNG, mentioning Gordon Ryan, the GOAT. It really does look like that in the world of jiu-jitsu. Many people, probably more would agree than would disagree, that in no-gi grappling, Gordon Ryan is possibly the greatest of all time. The only people who disagree that will say he just hasn't been around enough years to win enough titles, to win enough ADCC, Eddie Bravo Invitationals, IB, JJFs, and even Gordon has said that he doesn't fault people who feel that way, and who, because of that and the fact that he's only 25, don't elevate him to the level of calling him the GOAT. But yeah, many people he feels he is. It's just at 25 years old, man, it's just a shame that this intestinal disorder that he's been battling with for years has caused him to retire. But I mean, it sure is something you can relate to. Like, let me ask you, Adam, you competed in wrestling in school. Let's say you're 25 years old. You're the top of the top in jiu-jitsu and wrestling and some combat sport. But yet for the last 3 years, you're battling really bad intestinal illnesses. So half the time you come in there looking skinny, and it's because you haven't been able to keep your food down for weeks. Half the time you come in there having not gotten any sleep the night before from being in the bathroom all night. You're winning, though. You're winning. Everyone loves you. You're making a ton of money. But that sure would be pretty miserable. I mean, it's already hard enough doing the hard training and getting fired up and being focused to compete in something as rigorous as jiu-jitsu, but to do it when you're sick and when you may have been sick like a month straight, I mean, that would really suck. But then some of the people are saying, but he's winning. Why stop? But it's got to be very unpleasant. You'd have to imagine that's probably a big part of it, wouldn't you?
Right. Yeah. Well. Yeah.
Would you want to fight through that unpleasantness, do you think? And it would probably be hard. I mean, maybe it's gotten to the point where literally he's starting to feel like it's probably getting harder and harder for him to beat people that he used to beat. He may be starting to see.
I mean, I don't know his situation, but that's why we're trying to have him on here tonight.
Yeah, I want to talk to him. But but then the other thought is, if you retire at 25, that sure does give a lot of time for you to come back. That's really a positive thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that they're frequently doing research on all kinds of disorders and diseases, right? And he's pretty much indicated that if they can solve this, apparently he does have a condition, a friend of mine told me the name, that right now doesn't have a cure. But if they found a cure and he doesn't have to be sick all the time, then it sounds like he'd return in a heartbeat. So it's kind of an interesting perspective, because at 25, even if it took medical science 3 years, 5 years, or even 10 years to solve this, the dude could be back. I mean, how interesting would that be? That would be almost like if GSP or Anderson Silva or Fedor or Kamaru Usman or someone who is just dominant had to go away for 5 or 8 or 10 years, but came back when they were still relatively young in their 30s,
right,
and could face the new man, the new GOAT. I mean, that would be amazing. It's like someone coming out of the shadows, like Field of Dreams, right? I can see it, man. I'm getting the goosebumps. Someone else turns into the new Gordon Ryan for 6, 7, 8 years. All of a sudden, they fix the intestinal issue. Gordon Ryan steps out of the clouds and says, I'm coming for you, dude. You're not going to be the man anymore. Good run for 6 years. Say goodbye, because the real man's coming back. That would be amazing, wouldn't it? I could just see the drama and how crazy people would be. But, hopefully it won't be that long. I've heard some people feel that it might even be a publicity stunt, as I know Adam can relate to people that would do that. But I talked to a lot of people also who just say there's no way.
I think he's sincerely dealing. I mean, he is. It's been known he's been dealing with gastroparesis. So
right.
I know that he's not just doing this for no reason. However, him being able to come back is something that is going to be a decision for him to make and
right.
decide. And I think that there's a possibility that he may have just been in a lot of pain and said, hey, let's be done. I don't know.
Right.
Let's talk to him tonight and find out where he's at.
It will be very interesting to see. And so he is scheduled, as you guys know, for a couple minutes from now. He may be as much as 10 or 20 minutes late.
Oh, no.
Conceivably, yeah. So let's be ready for him.
Well, sorry guys, I know Colin and I could be pretty boring and talk about everything that needs to be talked about with MMA. You guys are absolutely amazing. Go on over to all of our social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You might as well follow me on YouTube. Subscribe. It's Adam. It's just Adam Roorda. You should be able to just find it over there. And Colin, we've got so many different news sources. I'll get to the fights in a second here, but so many different news content, pieces of content that our contributors are putting out right now on our website. Everybody should go on over and get signed up, and it's real easy. There's a spot for signing up for our mail list, and you can also check out all of our news, and we will soon be having everything built out with our podcasts. I'm going to be doing an additional podcast every day here soon, and we will also have rankings getting put up there. Right. So make sure to go to our websites, MMApowerhour.com.
Absolutely. We really appreciate you. And what we can say is, if you notice a different friendly feel and no egos and just really passion for the sport, the reason why is that this is a fully optimized MMA news and entertainment show. The other shows are not fully optimized, I would say. Wouldn't you agree?
Not in the way that we're doing it.
Right.
I mean,
right.
Some ways they are.
In some ways they are. But yeah, it's almost like the CBD versus the CBDA. One is good and the other is even better. And so, just like our sponsor, Ness's Hemp, with a fully optimized CBDA, this is fully optimized MMA news and information and entertainment. And so we've optimized it for you. We've got the graphics optimized. We've got, well, these faces are not as optimized as I guess they could be, but we're trying to optimize them as much as we can. I got a fully optimized white polo shirt on right now. So,
well, yeah.
What more can you ask for, huh?
You know, it would have been interesting if we would have had that optimized video actually work and be optimized for our show, because you would have had a black shirt on.
That's right. It would have been interesting, but then I think people would see that I was side by side with Anderson Silva, and they would know that I wasn't sitting here in the
So
studio.
it doesn't matter.
So it wouldn't have mattered, which is why I wore this. I thought about that already. But yes, consistency, continuity is important. You know, as you know, in films, all of a sudden you see someone in a scene, and then there's a cut, and they're supposed to be in the same scene, yet they're wearing a different shirt, and they now have a hat on, and you say, someone who's doing continuity for the film must have fallen asleep for that scene. Shame.
Shame.
Yeah, but anyway, so yeah, we are excited hopefully to have any minute Gordon on. I know he did have something urgent to deal with, and he says he's going to deal with it as quick as possible, and we'll be in touch. And so in any case, let's take a look at this fight a week from Saturday. We do have a rest for 1 week, and okay, going down. And that fight has been changed. Alan Patrick against Mason Jones. Not that familiar. Let's go to the women. There we go. Ariane Lipski. She's got a cool nickname, although I forgot what it was. She's the queen of something, or power at something. I don't know. But Ariane Lipski is going up against Montana De La Rosa. Montana was on our show with her husband, Mark De La Rosa. I think we're the only couple. The queen of violence. That's it. What a beautiful...
I was just going to say, how could you forget that?
That's a beautiful looking girl. Both of these are really pretty girls and really good athletes. We had Montana and her husband on, both signed to the UFC. I know Montana still is. I think Mark is still signed to the UFC, I hope, and that was awesome. They're one of the only married couples to fight in the UFC. Montana is a tough girl, still young, 26 years old, out of Helena, Montana. Her last fight was a draw. She's got a pretty darn good record of 11-6, having fought everyone, or almost everyone there is to fight, and she is going to be coming in hot against the queen of violence, Ariane Lipski. Lipski is 27, another youngster, coming off a loss against Antonina Shevchenko. She did pretty much get smashed after having 2 good wins, but yet they're making Lipski the favorite, aren't they here, Doc? Well, take a look up there at the odds.
Yeah, they were.
I think it's like -200 or something. Where is it?
No, Lipski's not the favorite.
Yeah, she's not. She's not. Okay, and that makes sense. And that does make sense to me. I was wondering what the heck's up with that. So this should be a good fight, though. Lipski is going to be fighting tough, coming off of a loss, coming off of a draw. Montana's going to be fighting tough. I think Montana has the wrestling. I know she does, in fact. It's going to be a tough fight, though, because both of these women are kind of struggling to kind of get into the top 10 and just having a hard time getting there, but always being somewhat close. The winner, I think, will maybe be possibly in the top 10 or close, and the loser is really going to fall back. So it's going to be a tough fight. Both women are young, and they'll fight hard. Antonio Hoya and Tom Breeze, I'm a little bit familiar with them, but not probably enough to talk about it. Let's go back.
Really?
Well, you want to check? Breeze is a Brit, I think, isn't he? Let's see. Breeze with an S.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. So Tom Breeze is, Birmingham, West Midlands, England, 12-3.
Yeah, I was gonna say, a lot of people are excited about him right now.
And he's coming off a loss. He did get arm triangle choked from Omari Akhmedov. He did a lot of great fights in Cage Warriors, early days in the UFC. Wow, he was fighting way back. It looks like there was a break in his career for a couple years, and then another couple years. Okay, so he's been win one, lose one for the last few years, but he's fought very tough guys. 6'3", tall guy for a middleweight for sure. 29 years old. Antonio Arroyo is a tough guy. 31 years old, double tough dude. He's coming off 2 losses against Andre Muniz and Duran win. So both guys kind of really want and need the win. What are the odds? It's got to be pretty close, isn't it? Wow, they got Tom Breeze as a big favorite.
That's where I would put it too, but I think there's a little bit of an X factor in this one.
I think so too. I think I would, if I was betting, I would go dog or pass. I don't think I want to lay that chalk on Tom Breeze. I honestly don't. Probably he
not with this kind of difference. I think
it's close. I think, in all honesty, Hoya is live in that fight. I really think he is.
Yep.
Next fight is really interesting. Guest on our show, the Moroccan Devil, I think he is, Youssef Zalal. Very tough guy. He is coming off 2 losses, I believe, after having won his first 2 fights in the UFC and being on a really good winning streak. He's such an exciting guy. He's just been beaten by gritty wrestlers, I think. Sean Woodson coming out of James Krause's team, Glory MMA in Missouri. I know Adam, having relatives in Missouri and having lived there for a while after Iowa, loves the Missouri people. But this is tough. Woodson is a tricky guy. I think he recently got smashed. Can we look and see if Woodson's last fight was one that he got
I'll go
smashed?
ahead and do that. In the meantime, could you do me a huge favor, Colin, and reach out to the guest, make sure that he accepts the invitation on Skype?
Okay.
And that way we can...
All right. Okay, let me text this in here.
And my mouse is acting funny. Thank you guys for hanging in there with us while we hop back and forth on some of these things. We've got to do things on the fly for you a little bit. Okay, I'm looking.
It was Zoom. You mean the Zoom, right?
Arjan is...
It was Gordon for Zoom.
Oh, yeah, it's Gordon for Zoom.
Yeah.
Oh, it's Gordon? Okay.
Yeah, Gordon will be on.
Yeah.
Okay.
My apologies. Yeah, we're waiting for...
But we're
next.
So we're needing to ask him, though, or does he need to? No.
No.
Good, I'm glad.
I need to do that and hop in here. Okay.
Yeah. And
so that's my fault.
No problem. Yeah, Arjan is Skype. And do you want me to make sure... We don't need to since he's 725. Or do you want me to hit up Arjan now to make sure that's connected?
No. Just hit up and tell him we're here.
Right. Okay, so
this takes a second doing it this way.
This is going to be if Gordon is going to be there, and I have a feeling, since he was going to text me as soon as his urgent business came up, I have a feeling he's not going to be there at this moment because he hasn't texted me yet.
Right.
So we are really planning and believing with confidence, as was promised, that Gordon will be here. He was due 7 minutes ago, but even if he can come on in the next 15 minutes, we'll still have 15 or 20 minutes with him, and he's going to do everything he can to make that happen. I know if somehow it doesn't happen, this will be a great disappointment, but if not, then I'm pretty confident he will be agreeable to come on next week, and certainly he has apologized to me and Adam sincerely for having this delay here, and if somehow it does not come through, he apologizes sincerely and assures us that we will see him on the show. Anyway, so in the meantime, why don't we give him a few more minutes, because it sounds like he'll be hitting. Okay, so we want to go back, or can you, while you have that up? Yeah, go back to the Yeah, so no, next go just to the odds, fight odds. Okay, so Youssef Zalal, Sean Woodson is going to be a really interesting fight. So Zalal, the better striker. I think he's quicker. He might be a little bit more technical, but Woodson at 6'2" and 145, man, he makes
tall and lanky. I'll stand next to him in my scrappy
You'd look
arms.
buff, you'd look buff compared to how thin he is, man. And you were always the tall, lanky guy. But yeah, he's a very talented guy. Yeah, that fight he did come off getting Bravo choked by Julian Erosa, and he hasn't fought since then. So it'll be nearly a full year. So this is going to be interesting to see how Woodson recovers from losing in an upset loss and really kind of getting smashed. Whereas Youssef Zalal, I'm pretty sure, if we can check, was coming off of 2 losses. And if you want to just click on, there you go. And Zalal is coming off 2 losses, so he was 10-2, and then his 2 recent fights were losses against, there we go, Ilya Topuria first and Seung-Woo Choi. He went the decision in both and just got outworked a little bit. I think one of them was actually a close call, could have gone his way, but maybe not. But so both guys coming off losses, whereas at one point they were really killing it. And so they're both going to fight really, really hard here. I'm excited about that fight. I think both men are alive. I think I'm going to lean Zalal, because I just think he's going to be able to come through and be quicker, and but the grappling is a weakness for him, and at Glory MMA and James Krause, your grappling's tight no matter who you are when you go in there. When you're there for a while, like Sean Woodson has been, your grappling's tight. So that's going to be interesting, and I can't wait to see that fight. That's got fight of the night possibly written all over it. Going back to that card, if we look at fight odds in the red, and then we will be looking at Roman Dolidze against Laureano Staropoli. Dolidze is an interesting dude, big buff guy. I think he's come down in weight from originally being light heavyweight to middleweight. I can't call that one. I just don't know enough about both guys, but it should be an interesting fight. Two tough European guys. Above that, the women's fight, Manon Fiore against Marina Moroz. So I think we have a French-Canadian against a Brazilian, and the newcomer Fiore is the favorite. That's a tough fight. Moroz showed a lot of promise, but just kind of a little bit tall and thin and just not really strong enough, it seems like, sometimes for her opponents. We just don't know a lot about Manon Fiore, even though I think she did win kind of a short notice fight, and so that's gonna be interesting. Okay, next one I think is gonna be very interesting. Tanner the Bulldozer Bozer, the Canadian with the mullet, and the leg kicks, against Ilir Latifi, the stocky Swede from Albanian background, the Albanian Swede. Very nice man. I talked to him in person at Media Day for Dominance Management a couple years ago. 3 losses in a row, but you know what, dudes? He beat Derek Lewis.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that.
Yeah, almost I think 80% of the media had him beating Derek Lewis in that last fight. But nevertheless, he's got 3, and that was his first heavyweight fight too. And to beat Derek Lewis in your first heavyweight fight by out wrestling him is something to say. Nevertheless, he's coming off 3 losses in a row. Tanner Bozer was looking like he was killing it. Did not look good against a 43-year-old Andre Arlovsky. No shame in that, because
no shame in Arlovsky.
Andre is a beast, but it did expose Bozer for really being a guy whose kicks are good, but his punches are not. He's not really polished with his punching technique. His wrestling is decent. He's got good movement. He's a strong guy, very mentally strong. He's a physically strong dude too. He's fairly young, but wow. But they have him that big a favorite over Latifi. I don't know, man. I mean, if you ask me, Latifi.
That's a good one.
I think the dog.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, Latifi. The only criticism people have for Latifi in the Derek Lewis fight is he kept taking him down, but not doing a lot of damage. But the control time was epic. It was like 4 minutes out of every round control time pretty much for Latifi. He's given away like 8 inches in height and like 30 pounds in weight. So there wasn't that much more in his first heavyweight fight you could have asked him to do, especially against someone like Derek Lewis, who went on like a 4-fight win streak after that. But he beat him. He just took him down, controlled him, took him down, controlled him, rinse and repeat. I don't see why he can't do that to Tanner Bozer. So I think Ilir Latifi is a live dog there. I think Ilir is getting a little bit older. That could be the problem, and he's definitely undersized. He's the shortest heavyweight. How old is Bozer? Well, see, Latifi, 37, yeah. So he's getting older. He's the shortest heavyweight and we've seen in a long time at 5'8". He's giving away 6 inches in height, and the other man's 8 years younger. That might be what the odds makers are kind of being.
That's what they're looking at.
What they're looking at. But I think if Latifi has not lost a step since that fight a year and a half ago against Lewis, then Latifi wins this fight, I think, all day. Ponzinibbio coming back. He came back, was rusty. He had a very tough fight against Neil Magny and got worked. I believe it was Neil Magny, I think. And now is a dog to a Miguel Baeza. I mean, that's such a bizarre scenario. Can you pull up that matchup on SureDog, Doc? Let's break that down. Okay, here's Gordon. Okay, crap. Okay, so guys, message from the king, Gordon Ryan. The emergency he's dealing with is probably going to take another half hour or so. At that point, we have Arjan Bhullar. A lot of people
want to see if we can get Arjan real quick.
Well, even though
I've got Pauline here and see if maybe they'll flip it around.
Well, he's saying that we could reschedule, and it sounds like for next week we could possibly do. Yeah, why don't we do that? Because I don't know. I mean, unless if you want, I could ask.
No, don't worry.
No, yeah, because then Okay, so guys, apologies from Gordon Ryan, but it looks like not only looks like he will be on this show, and it looks like there's a very good chance of next week. And so
we haven't had luck the last couple of weeks, I guess. Looking back on the whole Ariel Helwani situation, when they got started up over there at the MMA Hour, they were running into this right before they just blew up.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. It definitely happens. But just so you know, I mean, I can even show you because it doesn't show his number, but there's no point. The bottom line is he's saying, I don't know. You can show in gray where he says that, although I don't know. It's a meeting. This is like an urgent thing that had to do with I think a personal and business affair that was absolutely urgent and surprising, and then he wasn't aware of the timing.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Yeah, no point. Anyway, so the bottom line is he does apologize, and I do believe we will see Gordon Ryan next week. So let me respond to him right away. Doc, say some of your magical Dr. Adam Lyons.
Are you gonna type it out, or are you gonna transcribe it like you do?
That's what I'm gonna do. Yeah, I'll dictate it. Okay, so you want? I guess just
you guys can hear it.
Okay, why not? Okay, all right. Hey, brother, I understand completely. I really appreciate you letting me know, and that's no problem at all. Period. New paragraph. Love to have you at the same time, 9:45 p.m. East Coast time next week, if you can make it. ?
Sorry, guys.
Okay.
Sorry, that's a bummer.
Yeah.
First off, having technical difficulties here,
For the Anderson Silva. Yeah. But it is what it is.
We'll have Anderson for sure next week.
And we more than likely will have Gordon. And as soon as I can make sure that I have his word that we have him next week, then I will announce it on social media.
Man.
Yeah, I know. Let me proofread this, and then we'll continue.
What a night. What a night.
Yeah, tough night. It's tough night. It's very rare that we have two guests, especially two big guests, and then they don't come on. We will never advertise anyone as a guest unless we have their word on being on. And we
to say that we've had the best luck the last few weeks, but we have a pretty good track record until the last few weeks, and all of a sudden people are having to reschedule and stuff's coming up, emergencies. It happens, but we love you guys. Thank you so much. Head on over to our social media, give us likes, comments, and shares over there so that we can keep up with all of our other content. We've got the amazing Ross Marquis pumping out articles like the machine that he is, and we've got Dylan Bowker putting out a weekly podcast, and Jason and the gentleman also working on getting that set up with a weekly podcast, and then myself in the next few weeks I'll be starting a daily podcast. So definitely head on over to MMApowerhour.com, get signed up for the mail list to stay updated with all the different releases and new stuff, and also give us likes, comments, and shares on social media. You guys are the best.
Yes. You know what I remember? I remember some show years ago when a major guest didn't show up, and the host said to the co-host, well, we're going to do this anyway. You will be Gordon Ryan.
Okay.
You want to do it for a second, see how it works out?
It's not going to work very well, but let's do it.
Let's try it. Okay, well, we're happy to have Dr. Adam Roorda here. All respect to Gordon, and we're looking forward to having you on. We're not ripping on Gordon at all, but I'm just pretending we're going to see what he should say. Maybe I'll be Gordon. Why don't you be the interviewer? Well, you be Gordon. You're okay, but this is going to be fun. All right, Dr. Adam Roorda is Gordon Ryan. Gordon, you're retiring here at 25 due to the intestinal illnesses. Do you feel you accomplished everything that you wanted to accomplish, and if you never can come back again, you'd be happy? Or do you feel like the fact that you weren't around enough years for everyone to consider you the best? And
time-wise, I wish I could do this a lot more. Okay. I've accomplished everything that I think I really could have, though. I went at it hard right from the beginning.
Right, absolutely. But you do regret that the career is truncated because
of course
you wouldn't have stopped at 25 if it was not. Okay, makes sense. And then what age would you think, if they came up with the cure to your illness, what age would be too late for you to come back? Or in other words, what age would you come back if they cured this illness? Would you come back 35, or would that be too old? Or would you come back even if you were 39?
Whatever age, it doesn't matter.
So even if you were 42 or 3, you'd probably come back and fight the kids in jiu-jitsu.
I just love this game.
Yeah, makes sense. Absolutely. Well, that's as far as we'll go with that, but that was great. We recreated.
I actually did a pretty good job.
You did. He might say that. He really might have said that, but hopefully we'll have the real Gordon Ryan on to say that. Thank you, Dr. Ryan. We tried. We want to,
you guys are awesome.
And you guys really are, and we appreciate Gordon a lot. But what I was saying beforehand is, we will never advertise anyone that we don't feel we're going to have. It's just something went wrong. Gordon is a big star, as you guys know, and we connected through one of his publicists. And
our last guest is just in 15 minutes from now, right?
Yes, 20 minutes from now. We have our last guest 20 minutes from now. And so why don't we go back to where we were?
Hand me your phone, open up the text to him, and I will send him something. And yeah, we'll do this at the same time.
Okay, the text to who? To our next guest?
Yes.
Okay, which text? Just
a text message to him.
Oh,
open
here.
one up.
Well, press whichever one you want.
Yep. Go ahead.
Okay.
Well,
okay. So as Dr. Adam Roorda is doing that, so yeah, Ilir Latifi is live. Ponzinibbio against Baeza. What an interesting fight, man. Ponzinibbio was killing it, but was out with injuries and I think some other reasons COVID related maybe, and was out for a couple years, and he came back and they just immediately threw him against someone really, really tough. I forgot who it was. I think maybe Neil Magny. But he just got worked, and now his first fight since his comeback where he got worked, they're pretty much saying, well, this new young guy, Miguel Baeza, probably is going to beat you, and the odds favor Baeza a bit. Is it possible? It's possible. When you come off a loss where you're dominated, your confidence might not be at the highest, but I kind of think Ponzinibbio needed that fight to work off the rust. And if we can take a look at the guys in that same card, so you can actually triangulate by going to the rest of the card and there we go, see entire fight card. Okay, and then pick either Ponzinibbio or Miguel Baeza.
Oops.
No problem.
Hold on.
No problem at all.
Oh, click around, get to the right place. Okay. There we go.
Yeah. All right. So Ponzinibbio came back, and it was not Magny. It was he had beaten Magny in 2018, and then 2.5 years later came back and just got owned by Li Jingliang. Anyway, Baeza is an interesting guy. Baeza is undefeated, and he's 28 years old, fighting on an MMA Masters, 10-0, and let's see what he's done. He came up from Dana White's Contender Series. He won 2 years ago against Hector Aldana against, by leg kicks and elbows, TKO. He went up against the immortal Matt Brown. I remember that fight.
Yeah, that was a good one. And
it was a good one.
I was cheering for Matt on that one.
Me too. Most of us were, and Matt looked like good. He was good in the first round, and Baeza came back and just, was too young and too fresh and too quick and stopped him. And then he also stopped Takashi Sato, with an arm triangle. So this guy's been killing it. He's 3-0 in his UFC career with 3 stoppages. That's a position that people want to be in. No one wants to have their back against the wall in the UFC knowing that they're about to be cut. So Baeza is exactly the opposite of that guy. How old is Baeza? Can you go back real quick?
He's 28.
28, that's right. So 6 years younger. And I really feel like Ponzinibbio is going to be angry off of that Li Jingliang fight, man. I'm on Ponzinibbio here. American Top Team is a tough team. 34 at this weight class is a little bit old, maybe slightly past your prime, but not much. I think Santos Ponzinibbio is a live dog here.
I'm throwing this one in a parlay because I'm going with Baeza.
You just think he's too young, too fresh, and on a hot streak of 10 fights.
I sure do.
Yeah, very possible. I got Ponzinibbio. I think it's going to be a banger, though. Walt Harris, the big man. Walt Harris, the big ticket, and we have the big men fighting heavyweights with Marcin Tybura against Walt Harris. Let's see what we're looking at there. I know pretty much, but
go ahead.
Well, let's click on one of them for me, would you? Walt, the big ticket Harris. We know his stepdaughter was found dead last year, and he came in and I think fought Overeem or Volkov or both after that happened and did get stopped. Yeah. And his mind, it had to be in just a terrible place. I mean, for weeks, even a couple of months, they were searching for her, and someone had...
Was that early 2020 or late?
I think it was either
2019.
Early 2020 or late 19. I forget what it was, but she was abducted and then murdered, and it's just an awful situation. Yeah. God bless her and Walt Harris and his family. But yeah, he came in and he has not been returning to form. He fought 2 tough guys. Overeem, he fought, I think, literally within a couple months after her death, and it was just very unfortunate. Overeem's a tough guy toward the end of his career, but Volkov, we know, is still at the top. Volkov is a top dude, and that was unfortunate that Walt had to go from Overeem right to Volkov. But anyway, how old is Walt now? 30 years old, give or take? Can you go up a little bit?
Walt he's a little over that. He's
37. Yikes. Okay, so Walt is slowing down a little bit, although 37 is not super old at heavyweight. A lot of these guys are mid-30s and above, but a little bit older. Let's see Marcin Tybura, the man from Poland, 35
Well, that's
years
like
old.
saying I could just hop right back into the game.
Right. Okay, so on the flip side of it, Tybura has been on a streak, 3-fight win streak after having lost 2 back-to-back. And he stopped Greg Hardy in his last fight. Tybura is really coming to his own. He got some great training over there at Jackson Wink, and then I think he went back to Poland. But he's fighting with a lot of pride, 2 years younger on a win streak. So this is a weird fight, Adam. You've got a guy who showed so much potential, and that tragedy just threw him for a loop. And he really needs this win. He's coming off a 2-fight win streak. On a third, he could possibly be cut, although you'd hate to see that. And then Tybura, on the flip side, his back's not against the wall at all. Tybura is like climbing, creeping up the stairs, looking to try to get in the title picture or talks. And a win here, especially if he could stop the big ticket, would get him there. So they're both coming from different places, and both with a lot of motivation. What are the odds? They've got to have Tybura favored. Let's see.
Oh yeah, they do.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, -170, -160. Yeah. Walt is such a nice guy. Not that Marcin isn't. I don't know. This is such a hard fight. I'd love to see Walt return to form. If Walt returns to form, he could possibly just starch Tybura easily and quickly because he's that athletic. Although at 37, he could be starting to fade. I don't know. This fight will tell a lot about where they both are. I think it's going to be a banger, though. I think that come the end of 3 rounds, I don't think both men will be standing. Do you?
No.
Just a question of who will be. Yeah, I agree. Yep.
Yeah, I don't think. Not a chance.
No, not much of a chance. Both have gone to decision a few times, but they've got so much on the line. They really do. All right, and then is the next fight the main event? I think it's one before. Let's see. Are you sure? I think it might be one before. Nope, it was. All right, co-main main event. Biggie Boy, my buddy from Suriname, someone that we've been high on for a while, but he is on a 2-fight losing streak. Is it, or a 1-fight? No, just a 1-fight losing streak. So he is 11-2. He at one point was 10-1 or 9-0 or 10-0. He's lost to Francis Ngannou just by getting smoked real quick in 20 seconds. Then he beat Cigano, Junior Dos Santos, and then Cyril Gane just was too big and long and technical for him. It was a dull fight, but Biggie Boy definitely looked like he had a few flaws in his game there. His opponent is Augusto Sakai, the Brazilian, I think, of Japanese background, and a lot of people are exactly that. A lot of great Japanese Brazilian people in Brazil, and he lost to Overeem after being on a streak. Wow, in the 5th round, Alistair stopped him. 26 seconds left. No, 26 seconds into the 5th round, and I think that was an even fight. In fact, I think I remember I even had
it was pretty even.
Sakai even winning a little bit, and he was killing it before that. So he's got to get back on track. Biggie Boy, so they're both coming off a loss. So this is interesting. The heavyweight division is not that deep. Just being real, it's not that deep right now. So in all honesty, I think whoever wins this could very well be in the top 10. Probably will be, to be honest with you. And whoever doesn't is gonna be back, but maybe not that far back. Neither guy wants to have 2 losses in a row. It's not a good look. Let's see their age. How old are they? They're both 30 years old for Sakai, and Biggie Boy is 33. So both of them are right in their prime for being heavyweights. 6 feet. I think Rozenstruik, they tried to say was 6'4", and Cyril Gane really is 6'4", and Gane was like 3.5 inches taller. Rozenstruik is barely over 6 feet tall. Sakai is really 6'3" or 6'4". So once again, you're going to have a height and reach advantage. Sakai is super technical, really skilled guy. His grappling is going to be better than Rozenstruik, but Rozenstruik definitely has the power advantage on Sakai. Interesting fight. I think.
I think this is most interesting with this fight being where it is right now.
5 rounds too. 5 freaking rounds. If
Tybura wins his matchup,
they could go against the winner of this.
He's going to probably go against the winner of this.
Probably is. I would agree. And if Walt wins, probably the same thing, although you never know. But if Tybura wins, I could really see it.
If Tybura wins, I really think that he's going to get the winner of this, and it would be really interesting, no matter what, just to see him go up against Sakai. If he does win this one, to bounce back and have the rematch, I think it would be worth that. I think Dana would, and the matchmakers over there would be talking about that.
That's right, because Sakai caught Marcin early, and Marcin went on a win streak right after that.
Yep.
That's right. That would be very good call on that, Dr. Adam Roorda. Yeah, Sakai is tricky, man. Really talented dude. And the odds makers have that fight. They have that fight almost even. Biggie Boy slight favorite. I can see that.
Yeah, I can see that. Although, yeah, I don't know. This last performance, I would call it listless almost.
Right.
It really was not one that made me maintain my excitement for Rosenstruck.
Right, no, I agree. He just looked like he was perplexed and confused by Cyril Gane. Can you tell me, there's a fight showing here as the co-main event. Can you look on Sherdog and see why we're not seeing that? Or maybe it's there and they just put it in a different position? Because they're showing, go to the entire fight card, they're showing Muslim Salikov against someone else. Do you see Muslim Salikov?
No, but let's check this.
Probably canceled. I bet it's canceled. Who was it going to be? Salikov. It was Muslim Salikov against someone interesting, and they're not showing it there either. They're not showing it there either.
Canceled.
Yeah. Who was it going to be? Who was Salikov supposed to fight? And it was. Yeah, Francisco Trinaldo. That was going to be interesting, but it does look like that fight apparently is off. Anyway. Well, these are going to be interesting. Biggie Boy Rosenstruck, man, he's a tough guy. Only guys to beat him are Gane and Ngannou. What do you think, Dr. Adam Roorda? I don't know exactly how many years that Gane and that Gane and Francis Ngannou have known each other. I know they're both French, and Ngannou having grown up in Cameroon and then lived in France for several years. I think Gane is born and raised in France. I know they were part of the same team. I don't know now. I mean, when you get two guys, especially in a glamour division like the heavyweight division, that are both just really big, athletic, strong, skilled guys, I don't think that works out so well, because especially if you're both in the same, if you're in a different organization, it works out great. Then you have an absolutely ideal sparring partner if one was in Bellator and one was in the UFC, or one was in one championship.
Right.
But to have two guys, I just think that that's just not a good fit, because then it's going to be tough for them to want to fight each other. So I believe one of them parted ways from the gym. I do believe that Gane and Ngannou are no longer training at the same gym. The only question is, when they did they train with each other a lot, or did they just both happen to be French guys that were in the same gym? I don't know. I believe they did it. You would think they would come in handy training with each other coming up. So I'm sure they did spend some time training together. I wish I knew exactly what's going on there, but I do think that if things work out, we already know where Francis is. If Gane wins his next fight, which I don't know if it's signed or not, but I think they're looking at Gane versus Volkov. I wonder if we look down, if we see anything with Cyril Gane coming up. Let's see if we see anything with Gane. No, he would be higher up in the card. I think there might be. I think there we go. Against Volkov, yep. And when is that? Go up a little bit. June 26th. We're a month away. So, that's a big fight, and they got Gane slightly favored. Man, that may be for number one contender. Well, scratch that. Either Derek Lewis or John Jones will be fighting Ngannou. Almost for sure it's going to be one of them.
It's going to be John. He's going to, last second, turn around and say, okay, I got to make a deal, otherwise I'm out.
Okay, so I will say this, though. Whoever wins between Gane and Volkov, they're right in that picture. They're right next to Derek Lewis barking for a title shot.
Right.
And so this is a big fight. And so what's interesting is, if Gane beats Volkov, and let's say Francis beats Jones or Derek Lewis, supposedly in Ngannou, Francis could fight the other one that he didn't just beat. But I just wonder at some point if Gane is up there, man, those two Frenchmen are going to have to fight. And it's going to be weird because they're from France, they're countrymen, they train together, and I wonder what their thought is on that. I have a feeling I know their thought. Their thought probably is, for big money, for the UFC title, that's the only time we'll fight.
Right.
But it's looking like that could very well be on the table. You know, and you never know, man. I mean, it's weird because probably it'd be easier if they weren't buddies. It'd probably be easier if one of them stole the other one's girlfriend. And maybe one of them right now is saying, I'd like to kill that MFer, you know, if I see him next. You know, so maybe there is, you know, maybe there is something going on, but you almost doubt it. They're both such nice guys. They both seem so easygoing. So, you know, that will be interesting. I mean, in all honesty, that would be weird. But the way it looks now, that could very well happen. An all French UFC title fight, an all African French UFC title fight with Ngannou against Cyril Gane. Could very well see it. And that would be a really interesting fight because they're both the same height. Gane may even be slightly taller. They both have amazing physiques. Francis is definitely more of a fast twitch muscle, powerful, explosive guy. Gane, though, we know has got some subs and has got some ground, and Gane is also really technical and slick. You know, damn. I just, you know, that should be a weird fight, especially if they know each other well. Can you imagine if their sparring sessions were?
I mean, it's going to be weird, but it's part of the sport and part of the game.
Yeah.
And thinking about weird and the exact opposite of weird, one that I'm super stoked for is the Leon Edwards Nate Diaz fight.
Yes, absolutely. Hey, check this out. Gordon Ryan next week will be perfect.
Perfect. So you guys got it. You heard it right here.
6:45 p.m.
Yeah, so if you guys want to tune in specifically, then it'll be 6:45 p.m. Pacific time next week. And we do apologize for that. Things do happen. They come up, just like my technical issues with my computer not wanting to work. And we wanted to have the show for you. Whether you want to sit here and listen to us all night, every night, is another conversation to be had at a different time, but we appreciate you guys being here. And next week, Gordon Ryan will definitely be here to make up for not being here this week, and we'll also squeeze in Anderson Silva interview. So we'll be setting pretty good next week. It's a rain check.
Absolutely.
Rain check. We'll get another guest in here. Now we do have Arjan hopping on here very shortly in the next 2 or 3 minutes.
Absolutely. So next week, tell a friend. Apologies, but Gordon Ryan absolutely says there won't be any issues. He will be back home. I didn't realize he was out of town, but he will be back home, and we will have Gordon Ryan full interview 6:45 p.m. Pacific next week on this show, and that's a guarantee. And so we're excited. Arjan Bhullar coming up, man. And yeah, we're 2 minutes away. I can't wait to see that. We're gonna be
there. He is. He's right there. You want to just go ahead and call him?
Let's do it. Yeah, let's do it. And Gordon Ryan says thanks so much and sorry again.
Awesome. Skype dance.
Hello, Arjan. Can you hear me?
Sure can. How you guys doing?
Doing great, my friend. How about yourself?
Good. I just found myself a little bench here. I'll get settled in. We'll hit this.
Absolutely. Really appreciate it. You are in one of the most beautiful places in the world, and absolutely one of the most beautiful places in North America. I don't think it's a secret. Everyone knows you've lived in Canada for many years, but Vancouver, Canada is so amazing. And you know what's funny? I think it borders Vancouver, Washington in the United States, which nobody thinks is that great. And so that's got to be kind of weird, right? Have you ever stepped over to the Vancouver in Washington, and what the heck happened? Why is Vancouver, Canada so beautiful and Vancouver, Washington isn't?
I don't know. We've got mountains, I guess, maybe, and beaches, and I don't know. It's crazy that just south of the border, it's a completely different world. We get some of the same rain, I know that, but aside from that, I couldn't tell you, man.
No problem. Well, let me give you a proper introduction. I know we started out, man. I'm excited to talk to you, but always want to give the respect that a guest deserves. We are live here, and ladies and gentlemen, you know who this man is. I'm super excited to have him on the show. We are talking about the brand new One Championship heavyweight champion, Mr. Arjan Bhullar. Officially, welcome to the show, and congratulations on that great victory, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Happy to be here, and thanks for having me, guys.
You're very welcome. So that was a fight against the champion Brandon Vera, who's a super talented guy. You definitely have some skills. You have a great wrestling credential, and you also spent some time over at AKA. You won both your fights in the UFC, and so you weren't like this huge underdog, but to go over for the first time and fight in Brandon Vera's cage over there at One, and to fight such an experienced guy, I think a lot of people might have been expecting Brandon Vera to win that fight. What was your mindset going into that fight, and what were you thinking that the fight would turn out to be, and was it similar to what you had envisioned?
Exactly what we planned is what happened. There was no way we were going to lose, and yeah, we're going over his division, into his going for his title, all those things, but I truly felt it was mine. And we laid out plans for Vera the day we signed the contract, and like I said, the fight went according to plan. It probably should have been stopped in the first round if he didn't slap on that Kimura.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's a talented guy. Was he as strong and as quick, or maybe not so much as you were expecting, or was there anything surprising about how he felt in there?
No, I felt really comfortable. I saw everything. I didn't feel he was strong. He was slippery, and questionably slippery from the beginning to the end.
Right.
He was an oil slick, that guy was.
Yeah.
But in terms of strength and speed and all that technique, I seen everything, and we were completely comfortable. I was well trained for the fight.
Fantastic. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would think you are the very first heavyweight champion of any major MMA organization with heritage from the Indie Pac subcontinent.
Correct.
How does that feel? That must be a really good feeling to carry that.
Absolutely. It's a great honor. It'll be a part of the history forever and ever. It's a part of my legacy. It means a great deal to me and my family. So a great honor and a great responsibility moving forward, carrying that torch.
Did you hear from people cheering for you leading up to it? Did you get some good social media support from people back in your original homeland or ancestors' homeland?
Absolutely. We got great support. We were supposed to take the title straight back home to our family home in the village. But obviously, India has been devastated by COVID, and it's not a good time to get out there. But we've had great support. They had a whole party there, and just around the world, not just India. Indians all over the world have been celebrating the victory.
Absolutely. Were you born there? Did you spend much time at all in India, or was it all Canada and it's just your background from there?
I was born in Canada. My parents came over from India, but I've been going back every year. Every single year we've been going back. We have our family home there. We still have family. I love it, especially because of my wrestling connection, all of that. So I love going back, and I can't wait to go again.
Absolutely. And there are some great fighters from there. I think their big organization over there is like the Super Fight League or something like that, isn't it?
They got Super Fight League. They got Brave. Brave operates out of there as well. And, those are probably the two leading ones in the country.
And I know that One will probably look at talent from there as well. Do you think that this might help One maybe bring in some more talent from that part of the world and maybe your presence as well? Or do you know any really good fighters that you're connected with from India or around there that you think might have the chops for One championship?
I know great wrestlers that come from my background, and I think they would make great fighters, to be quite honest with you. And I think this is going to open a floodgates for that. There's obviously boxers, there's Sanchu fighters, there's a whole whack of others as well. But, Yeah, it's exciting for what's going to come next in the country.
Without a doubt. So tell us about your background. In Canada, wrestling wasn't as big as it is, or isn't as big, freestyle and amateur wrestling, as it is in the United States, but I think it's gaining traction. But tell us what got you into wrestling in Canada, and how did you get into MMA? Maybe give me a backtrack, maybe going back, 15 years or something like that, and give me just some of the high points on what your road was, and how you got into wrestling, and where you went into there, and how you got into MMA.
So essentially it was my father wrestled originally. He trained with the Canadian national team out here, went back to the homeland, competed there once he immigrated over. It was a sport he's familiar with from the homeland. And I used to go back with him every year as a little kid and train alongside of him as a kid, and see others train with him. Those are my earliest memories of the sport and of childhood. And then from there, I got into the sport. Just like we had 10 boys in the family, everyone wrestled. We have a family gym with mats, and since day one, we've all wrestled. I continued to a higher level. Simon Fraser University locally here, we've had over 20 world and Olympic medalists come out of. It is Canada's only NCAA program in the entire country. So we wrestle folk style. It's the only NCAA program outside the U.S. So it's a perfect place for folk style wrestling. And I came through there. I went up to the national team, did the Pan Ams, did the Commonwealth Games, did the Olympics, all of that. And then the guys I was training with and competing against all were making the jump to MMA, and I saw an opportunity. So after the Olympics, I got my eyes there, and that's how I hooked up with Cormier and AKA and them boys, King Mo. All these, they were from the U.S. national team, and we had a friendship from there. So plugged into there, and got to training. I've got a great team here in Vancouver, great coaches here as well. So I split time between both. Got my contract into the UFC, fought through. Became a free agent. They wanted to re-sign. I said no. I got a way better deal in one, and I want to do stuff for India and for my own brand, and the ones rolling out the red carpet. So we go out there, and then we set our sights on Vera, and we did the damn thing.
Absolutely. Very well stated. And I knew that had to be it. Obviously, coming out of AKA, and as talented as you are, I knew it wasn't the UFC that said, we don't want this guy. I knew it had to be that you had a better offer to, promote your brand and to get more money and to bring excitement. And it's the biggest, one is the biggest organization in Asia. A lot of people don't know one is just as big, if not bigger, in the rest of the world, excluding North America. It's a huge organization, right? It has a ton of amazing athletes, and so it makes sense that you did that. And I definitely think that it was a good call. I know that as people see how good you are, there's going to be a bunch of people saying, man, I wish Arjan could come in and beat some of these guys in the UFC, which I'm sure you could, but you never know what happens down the line. But the bottom line is you proved yourself, and you made a great call. Funny thing, really quick, I've been watching this sport for many years, training on and off. I never competed professionally, and I never had any amateur career anywhere near yours, but I always competed in school in jiu-jitsu and in striking on a low level, so I've always been a huge fan. I remember back in the early days, I was really young, when it was the early UFCs, and I think it was like 1996, there was a Canadian, Dave Beneteau.
Yeah.
Right? And
he's a Simon Fraser guy.
Yes.
He's an alum of my university.
Yes.
He wrestled my dad. My dad wrestled.
Oh, that's awesome. That is so awesome. Because I remember that's the last time, so this is 23 years ago, the last time I heard anyone say the words Simon Fraser was he shouted them out in one of his interviews, I think, after he won. That is so cool. Your dad wrestled against him. So with your dad wrestling against him back in those days, does that mean your dad was aware of the UFC from knowing Dave Beneteau, or was he really not?
He knew he was a tough guy. He knew he did something, outside of wrestling. He never really understood the concept of what it was.
Right.
He knew professional wrestling, WWF, back then.
Right.
And that was sort of it. He knew Dave was a tough SOB, and he liked training against him and competing against him and all that. And that was the extent of what he knew about the sport back then.
Interesting. So as you were wrestling and MMA started becoming more prominent, did you kind of become aware of it and more focused on it as well as your dad, or was it just you and your dad still didn't pay much attention to it?
Just me. I seen it. He still doesn't want me to do it.
Oh,
Like,
man. Yeah, I was going to ask
so many
that.
other options. You know, but obviously he's happy I'm healthy and I've won, and they've been supportive. So
Absolutely.
I'll,
Definitely. And you're with a great team. Sorry to interrupt you, Arjan. And then over at AKA, what did you spend? 3, 4, 5 years there? 6 years?
I've been there for a while. I was there for DC Jones 1. That's when the first time I ever walked into the gym there.
Nice.
For that camp. So
Nice. DC shouted you out, I know, I think it was on a UFC broadcast, either during it or after. I forget where it was. And that's great respect. That shows that he was willing to do that. You and him must have had some interesting scrambles, man. Anything notable? Definitely some hard times, huh?
Yeah, we got some wars, man. I made sure, you know, when I got in, I was green. He used to rough me up real good, but then near the end here, I tried to get my licks in before he walked out. So
Nice.
That's for obviously only in the gym, but we've had some great sessions.
Absolutely. And iron sharpens iron. And I know he's about 5, 6, 7 years older than you. So, you know, it's definitely, you probably picked up, I'm sure he learned something from you, but you probably learned some good stuff from him also, I imagine.
Oh, yeah, he's a senior. He's a captain of the team. He's a captain of the Olympic team before that. So you just follow his lead, man, and get to work. That's the best way to do it.
Absolutely. Well, this is awesome that you won that fight. Now, you made a call out afterward, and forgive me, but some people that are big in WWE I'm not that familiar with. But I know there's someone who does a lot of talk. I don't know if this guy's from your background or who this is, but can you remind me who it is that you kind of mentioned you might be down for in the WWE, I think?
A guy named Bobby Lashley, Bellator fighter, ATT trained. That's the guy I want. Coker won't let me get my hands on him in the cage. Well, I'll get my hands on him in the squared circle. We'll do it that way.
I love it. And so that is something you'd be open to. Now, it's not my business for you to disclose your contract if you don't want to, but I think one tends to be more flexible than UFC. Is that something we could see you doing soon, or would it have to be when you're completely done with one championship as far as WWE?
I want to do both. And we're in talks at the highest levels. Between one and us, I got great management, CAA management,
Yes.
CAA Sports, and WWE and AEW, everyone.
Fantastic. That's amazing. So your dad, he doesn't even want you to be doing this, and it makes sense because it could be a dangerous sport, although he has to know the skill set that you possess is really important. Do you see him coming around at all since you're winning? Obviously he's cheering for you, but you think there's going to be a time where he's going to say, okay, this is awesome? Or do you think he's always going to say, I wish you're not doing it?
Nah, this is awesome and good enough.
I love it.
But yeah, it's just the health thing, right? That's all, and he wants to make sure his boy's okay. But every time we win, he loves to compete and he loves to win. So it's a double-edged sword.
Makes sense. How many brothers do you have in that big family that you have?
So I've got one older brother, but we all live together. I got 10 first cousins that are all boys, and we've been training together since we were little babies.
That's amazing. Are any of them thinking about an MMA career?
Not so much more than the next generation now, because I'm the second, third youngest.
Okay.
So you know, if it was sooner, yes, but you know, I got a cousin that's 6 months older. He's taking a fight. He's taking one fight. He's taking a second one in a couple weeks here. But you know, the next generation's the one that's going to be probably deeper into it.
Fantastic. And so you're still training when you're in the States and when you can get to Northern California at AKA, but you got something good in Vancouver as well. Is it a school that is that the gym that your family owns, or who do you train with over there in Vancouver?
Yeah, we got John C. Kickboxing, so second generation family, great kickboxing family. Josh Johnson's in glory. He's fought Petrosyan and Sidachai multiple times for the title. He's up again for the title. They're the kickboxing generals. I got Adam Ryan, jiu-jitsu and head MMA coach. He's been around since the bare knuckle days. Beat guys like Ivan Salivary, been in there with Chael Sonnen.
Mm-hmm.
He's an OG of the Pacific Northwest. And then we got our wrestling club. Then we put it all together.
Absolutely. I remember I actually watched Ivan Salivary fight in the UFC. I remember he put on that body lock and then he got on top of Tony Fricklin and tapped him just because of the pressure on the lower back. And that was something. You don't see that often. It's also possible that Strickland had some back issues. We lost a connection. Adam, and now Adam has, there we go. Arjan, can you hear me? Can you hear me, brother?
Yeah.
We lost you for a second. Excellent. But yeah, I remember Ivan Salivary was a very good jiu-jitsu guy. Speaking of which, wrestling comes natural to you, obviously. What do you enjoy most, or what would you say you're better at of the two other skill sets, striking or jiu-jitsu?
It's a toss-up. Obviously, jiu-jitsu is a cousin of wrestling, so I feel comfortable there. But I love striking. It's brand new, and I think I'm good at it. So it's a toss-up.
Absolutely. I think you definitely looked improved over your last appearance, and you never looked bad, but you looked even more comfortable with the striking. I think something that Brandon Vera may not have expected, you know, because you looked like you were just standing there focused, man. You were kind of like a torpedo. You had the threat of the takedown. You were the younger, fresher man. You were the stronger man, and I think that a lot of people just didn't know that or expect that, including Brandon Vera, and so that was impressive. Yeah, no, you looked like you weren't going to be denied there. How important was it to you to win that fight?
Everything went into it. We were not going to be denied. Simple as that. We were focused. Before, when I started, it was I'm a wrestler. Then it was, hey, he's got some hands, and I wanted to make sure everyone sees that we got multiple ways to win. That's what a world champion does and is. I wanted to be a complete martial artist, and I think we showed that.
Absolutely. What weight do you like to come in at fights, and do you have any intent or desire to change that weight, or is it comfortable for you?
I came in light for this one because it was a 5-rounder. I was 235, 236. Generally, for 3-round fights, I've been about 241, 242. So we're good. We're good around that area.
What weight did you compete at in the Olympics and prior in wrestling?
I was usually 255, 260.
Okay, so you've always been at this weight class, and when you and because the Olympics was what year? Was it what, 10 years ago?
2012.
2012. All right, yeah, 9 years ago. When someone competes at a weight heavier, 9 years younger, some people wonder, man, is he going to be able to get lighter than that? But it sounds like you were able to, especially for 5 rounds, and it wasn't that uncomfortable or that hard, or was it?
No, man, we put in the work. Simple as that. That's the weight we wanted to come in at. And it showed. I could have gone 5 rounds all day.
Makes sense. Anybody else in the in one championship that you have your eyes on? Who do you think might present a good challenge to you?
Let's see how things shake out. I called out Kung Ji-won. He's had a couple of nice victories. He's got some momentum. Let's see. I'm excited to see. We're going to talk to Chatri in one and see what the next steps are.
Absolutely. How is it to deal with Chatri? I hear he's a really good guy.
Yeah, he's been great with us. No complaints. Solid leader. Man of the fighters. So far, so good.
Yeah. And so I won't keep you much longer, just a few more minutes, because I know you're there with your family, but let me ask a couple questions people want to know. Any chance of any one championship fighting in India, and how big would that be for you if they would?
It'd be massive. You know, this event like this, one Dungle, you get an all-India team. If that happened in India, forget about it. So I'm hoping once this COVID crisis clears on the ground, that's the next step. Absolutely.
Do you have any goals for how long you want to be in the game? 5 more years, 7 more years? Any thoughts about that at all?
Definitely not that long. It won't be that long, but as long as I feel good, I'm never the type of guy to stick around too long and go past my best before date. So just stay tuned and enjoy the ride while it's still there.
Absolutely. Do you think you would train your cousins after that? Probably.
Oh yeah, we got plans for the academy. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And if anyone has got some skills and wants to train at your academy, obviously someone who can't just walk in there, but if someone does have some credentials and some skills, is there any way they could walk in and see if they could work out with you guys and train there?
Sure, definitely. We got a lot of people that are inquiring and stuff. So as COVID relaxes here, that's the deal.
Cool. What's the name of the place again, and what city?
The Bhullar Wrestling Club in Richmond, British Columbia.
Fantastic. Any last thoughts you want to share about what people can expect from you and what your goals are here in this sport?
Nothing, man. I just appreciate all the support everyone's given me. And next step's going to be pro wrestling, and then we're going to defend, and we're going to keep marching forward. I appreciate everyone's love and support.
Absolutely. What's the best social media place to people to show you love?
Instagram, the one Arjan Bhullar. Twitter, the one _ASB, or Arjan Bhullar on Facebook.
Excellent. Well, Arjan Singh Bhullar, you're an amazing athlete, an exciting champion, and at heavyweight champion for one, you're in an amazing place, man. Can't wait to see you continue to show your skills, and I want to thank you so much for joining us here on the MMA Power Hour.
Thank you, gents. Appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Have a great day. All right. And that was Mr. Arjan Singh Bhullar, or Arjan Bhullar, known as both. He is an amazing athlete, really cool dude. Talk about some wrestling chops, Olympics. And you can't get better than that, you know, and just high level guy there with Daniel Cormier, training for years, still there when he's in the country. And then his dad, having been a high level wrestler, all of his cousins, 9 male cousins, and brothers wrestling, an amazing tradition. And it's interesting because the first man from the Indie Pac subcontinent to be holding a major title in any MMA organization, and he seems like a good guy to carry the banner and be a good role model for people there and others, don't you think?
100%. Well, hey, Colin, it's been another amazing episode. We pulled off what we could here. You guys are amazing for staying with us here. Like I've said a couple times throughout the show, make sure to head on over to our social media. It's at MMA Power Hour on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, where I'm going to be over on TikTok doing my own thing, but I'll be putting clips up over there for the podcast that I'll be doing soon, so make sure to follow me. It's Dr._Lionfist, and Colin is always doing his thing over there on Facebook. So
before you continue, Adam, we are probably 10 minutes earlier.
That's fine. I want to go ahead and get wrapped up here.
Early wrap?
Yep, we're going to have an early wrap. You guys are absolutely amazing. Thank you for another amazing episode, Colin. Thank you to Arjan for showing up. And then next week we will make sure to have the King,
Gordon
Ryan, and Anderson Silva's interview up here as well. So we do apologize. Things do happen, but this was hey, we had one guest on, pretty good show. We had great back and forth here today, Colin. A lot of information that I think a lot of the people out there were looking to have topics hit on. So you guys are amazing. That includes you, Colin.
Thank
you. For
you.
night, I'm tapping out.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Adam Roorda, for everything you do. And now, since we're early, I will have a time to do my normal send-off here. I want to thank you guys so much. Dr. Adam Roorda, our team, everything that Dr. Adam Roorda does is amazing, and the way this show looks and runs, and, the co-hosting is awesome, and we just appreciate our whole team of writers and contributors. It's just so many good people that are doing everything they can here. So any sharing that you guys want to do, let people know. If anyone wants to sponsor and encourage us, many donations would be great. We can make sure that everyone gets something out of it, so that would be awesome if you want to. But otherwise, keep watching, and because we're going to keep blowing up and do bigger things and be on a bigger platform, and hopefully one day soon be in a studio where we will have an amazing look like the Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. So that is our goal, and I think we can do that sometime soon. Anyway, thank you so much, Arjan Singh Bhullar. You're a great champion and a great guy. I appreciate your time a lot, and look for him and one championship, the heavyweight champion, and possibly WWE as well. And Gordon Ryan next week. Look forward to seeing you and the video for Anderson Silva. So to sum it up here, go out there and spread the love in a positive way. Be that guy, be that girl. Not only your parents, your kids, your siblings, let your co-workers know, your neighbors know, if you really do care about them. A friend that you haven't had a chance to talk to for a while. Sometimes an encouraging word in these hard times can mean so much. So do that. Take good care of your pets. Fresh water, a cool place if it's hot out, and a warm place if it's cold out for them. Unconditional love is what you get from your pets, and they're so important. Love yourself too. We forget about that a lot. And treat yourself